I am back with a brand new DC update. And I figured I'd get this update out there as everybody's going into their weekend. So you would have a video to watch and just lament over, because I'm going to bring up some pretty depressing things during this video. And I have a couple of photos to show you first. And for those who are new to my channel, I'm the guy who shoots it straight. I'm going to tell you like it is. I don't mince words. I do not like Warner Brothers Discovery. I do not like James Gunn. And I do believe they are destroying the DC brand every single day. It gets worse and worse. The ship is sinking. It is the Titanic at this stage. They are bleeding money. If you haven't seen my last couple of videos, there's a scandal going on with Rotten Tomatoes, and I am going to trail off of that here today and talk about just some terrible things, when we look back at what's happened with DC over the last 5 to 6 years, and some stuff we're going to talk about. But I do have a couple of photos to show you first, so let's take a look at those, and then we're going to talk about the couple things I wanted to discuss. So the first photo I have here is something that has been pretty much confirmed at this stage, and I think this movie is not going to make the same amount of money as the first one. Now, I think Gal Gadot has an awesome voice. I do not see her as Harley Quinn, but it says Joker 2 is going to be an all-out musical. That's pretty much been confirmed by people working on the movie. And I just don't think that's the way they should have gone with this. But, DC's, just the studio, Warner Brothers, is trying something different. And they're going off the coattails of the success of the first film, which did break $1 billion. I don't think this movie will reach those heights unless it is something truly special. Because I know a lot of guys who just will not go to see musicals. Me, I'm still going to check the movie out. I will be reviewing it. I really enjoyed the first one, but I'm not looking forward to it being an all-out musical. But we'll see when this finally does get released. Now, I thought this was interesting. This is the other photo I wanted to show you, is that Black Adam is the most watched movie of the year on Max so far. Again, the interest was there. This was their ticket to fix everything. But instead, they pivoted once again and have dug themselves a grave that I don't think Warner Brothers is going to be able to get themselves out of. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit and thought it was a great way to segue into the future of the DC universe on film, but David Zaslav had some completely different ideas, and that is actually going to trail off into what I do want to discuss in regards to this whole DC debacle, everything that happened with Rotten Tomatoes. There's just some nasty things that are being unearthed in Hollywood right now. So Hollywood is not... it's not what it should be. There's so much corruption in Hollywood. Everything from the Me Too movement to everything with the Weinstein, whatever how you want to say it. There is so much that is wrong with Hollywood. And you have people like Mel Gibson trying to call it out. You've got Denzel Washington calling it out. You've got Ricky Schroeder calling it out. There's lots of people who are now calling out the dirt in Hollywood. And it's no different with the politics that go on behind the scenes in regards to what movies are going to promote and what they aren't. It got so bad that there were some writers, and I saw this on Twitter today, that specifically said, I can't wait for Zack Snyder's Justice League to come out so I could just bash it. They weren't even going to be objective with it. If it's Zack Snyder, they're just going to immediately bash it. That's all it came down to. His movies made the most money I wouldn't say made the most money. People are going to come back at me and say they didn't make the most profit. They sold the most tickets. His movies sold the most tickets. His characters sold the most tickets. Then you lost everybody after Aquaman because of all the stupid stuff they did with Zack Snyder's Justice League and destroying that film before it got released in theaters. And at the same time, we now have proof that these reviewers were being paid to bash certain films and to basically emulate others and rise them up to be greater than what they were. If you look at some of the good scores they gave to some of the Marvel films, just look at Thor, was it Ragnarok, the last one? I can't remember the name of it. But that last film was just utterly ridiculous. Now, I actually enjoyed the movie for what it was. It's a straight-up comedy. It's so freaking silly and stupid. But I like the rock music in it. I'm not going to lie. The rock music is what got me to like the film. I mean, they chose some awesome music from the 80s. So it got me. You put rock music from the 80s in anything, you're going to get me. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to lie. But the movie was stupid. Like, they totally emasculated Thor. Totally. From the first film of Thor to then, if you look at the degradation of that character, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Disney does not like strong male heroes. They don't. They do not like strong male heroes. If you look at a show like Ahsoka right now, there's no strong male leads. In fact, the strong male lead is an evil Jedi. So that's Disney for you. They don't like strong males. They just don't. And so if you see the reviews they gave that, and then you look at something like Black Adam, and the audience really liked Black Adam. And I totally believe that these same people that are manipulating stuff make James Gunn stuff look better than it actually is. Because if you take something like The Suicide Squad, which I think it's just a junk film for many reasons. Full frontal nudity, the language, dick jokes, masturbation jokes, all kinds of stuff. Like, it was horrible. Horrible. But it has high reviews. And the audience reviews are being manipulated, I think, even more than the reviewers are, the professional reviewers, because I think the studios are giving kickbacks to the professional reviewers, and then we found out that they were paying $50 a pop for people to just go in and give stuff positive or negative reviews. How terrible is that? How terrible is that? You don't think these affected the DC movies? You don't think this affected the DCEU when the majority of Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Disney? Yeah, there's some shenanigans going on, and I hope this debacle actually causes Rotten Tomatoes to finally go away. It's unreliable. You cannot rely on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, this is why I have my channel. They're not going to be able to mute me. They're not going to be able to buy me. I guarantee you that every movie review I do, and if you haven't seen it, I had a couple come out today, and I'm going to have one come out tomorrow morning. You can't buy my reviews. You can't buy me. Not ever going to happen. I guarantee you I will never be swayed by something that a studio does for me or gives me. I am always going to give you my 100% honest opinion on these movies. Now, something else that was brought up by one of my followers on Twitter, and I thought this was actually an interesting point. Can you imagine if Disney had started the Avengers series, got you all excited up till Endgame, and you get to see Thanos and all this stuff was about to happen, and then they said, oh, sorry, we're just rebooting everything. We're just going to keep maybe this character and maybe this one, but all the rest of you are gone. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that's what they did? That's exactly what they just did with the DCEU. We had Henry Cavill back as Superman. We were on the way to getting Man of Steel 2. We were on our way to getting possibly the Batfleck movie because Ben Affleck was back for Batman in multiple films, and he was willing to come back and be that character for longer if the studio gave him the opportunity. And they just said, no, we're going to go in a completely different direction. How awful is that for fans? Like, how do you stab the fans in the back like that? How? The whole thing's ridiculous. There's sabotage all the way up and down everything. It's just reeks of crap. It just reeks of it. It's a dumpster fire down there. It truly is. Warner Brothers Discovery is burning. Someone actually made the comment that Barbie is helping them out tremendously. You have to understand something about Warner Brothers Discovery. They are much more than a movie division. And they're over about $50 billion in debt. $1 billion grossing film is not going to get them out of that $50 billion in debt. They need 50 more of those movies to be major hits just to get them even. That isn't going to happen with the movie division. It's not going to happen. Now, I did make a mistake in my last video. Well, not my last video, but the video where I talked about, and I wanted to correct this, where I talked about Disney buying Comcast. I didn't mean Comcast, and I totally misspoke. And I knew this when I did the video. I didn't say the right thing. They're buying Hulu, not Comcast. They're trying to buy the shares from Comcast, and Comcast and Universal will be off on their own, and they were willing to pay, like I said, that like almost $30 billion to do that. That's what the original plan was. Regardless of that point, I was mistaken. I meant Hulu. Still doesn't change anything. There were those talks that went on, and there's stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing. And I do believe that the DC brand and a lot of Warner Brothers IP are going to be sold off in 2024. I do not think James Gunn is ever going to see his universe get off the ground. They might get Creature Commandos out there, but nobody asked for that to start this DCEU. Nobody did. I mean, come on. There are people out there, I would love to see it. He's great with doing a bunch of characters. Fine, you can have that. But you got to give the meat and potatoes to the fans before you give them dessert or something different. We still have yet to have a true Batman-Superman film. We have yet to have a true Trinity film where they all team up together. Those are things I wish I would have seen in my lifetime, and now I don't think I'm ever going to get to see them. Not with the people in charge. And if they do, it's going to be silly as all get out. I do not have any faith in what James Gunn is doing going forward. And I think it's asinine that there are people like John Campea out there saying that it can lose money and it's still going to be a massive hit for Warner Brothers. Doesn't matter if it loses money. It's still a hit. When does that ever apply to any movie ever? Why are you giving James Gunn a pass? He already had one of the worst performing movies. And it's not just that Suicide Squad did terrible in theaters. It also did terrible on home video sales. And that's a real good indication as to whether people like something. You know whose sales did really well? Black Adam. I've talked about that before. You can go look up the numbers on that. It's pretty crazy stuff. People were actually excited for Black Adam. It's the most watched show or most watched thing on HBO Max this year. So there's a lot of stuff that, as a fan, it's disheartening. It really is disheartening. But I hope that someday things will change, at least while I'm still alive and while I'm still, at least somewhat young. I am looking forward to what the future could hold. I just hope that they don't wait too long. All right, we will see you guys on the next video.